A dog was inside a cage. The floor was receiving electric shocks at short intervals. First it stood up, then it stepped back. It could escape, but it didn't. The door was open, yet it lay down and stayed where it was. It did nothing. It just waited. The name of this experiment is Learned Helplessness. In the late 1960s, psychologist Martin Seligman was trying to understand something. Why would a living being stop trying even when escape is possible? This was not only about animal behavior. The experiment also explained why humans give up after repeated failure. And what we today call learned helplessness was born from this. Because sometimes the problem is not failure. The problem is the expectation created by failure. The experiment had 3 stages. In the first stage, the dogs were placed in a harness apparatus. They could move, but they could not escape. The floor delivered electric shocks. And no matter what they did, the shock did not stop. They jumped, they barked, they scratched, they tried to escape. Every attempt was hope. Every hope failed. After a while, their behavior changed. They moved less. Then they only waited. Then they did nothing. They stopped reacting. They stopped trying to escape. They had learned, but what they learned was not a solution. It was a conclusion. Have you ever repeatedly tried something and gotten no result? If so, you can understand why the dogs felt this way. In the second stage, the same dogs were moved to a different environment. This time, it was different. One side of the box had electricity. The other side did not. Between them was a small barrier. All they had to do was step over it. When the shock began, the researchers expected something. They expected the dogs to jump and escape. But something strange happened. Most of the dogs did not move. The shock continued. The door was open. Escape was possible. But they did not try. They simply lay down and waited for the pain to stop. This was the most disturbing moment of the experiment, because this was no longer learning. This was giving up. The researchers were shocked. Even dogs that could escape were not escaping. Yet newly introduced dogs jumped away the moment they felt the shock. What was the difference? The first group had learned, but not a behavior, a belief. Nothing I do will change this. And that belief changed reality. It no longer mattered that the door was open, because the mind had decided the door was closed. Seligman gave this a name: learned helplessness. When a living being is repeatedly exposed to an uncontrollable event, it learns this: I have no control. And later, even when control returns, it does not use it. The brain conserves energy. It stops trying. This is not laziness. It is a logical adaptation. But the cost is heavy. Because after this point, the obstacle does not have to be real. The mind's obstacle is enough. The same mechanism began to appear in humans. A student who repeatedly fails exams stops studying. Someone repeatedly rejected stops applying. A child constantly criticized stops speaking. Failure does not only produce results. It produces expectations. There was a time when I wanted to lose weight, but often couldn't. I was trapped in a cycle of dieting and quitting. After a while, the person no longer thinks, "How can I succeed?" They think, "It won't work anyway." And that thought becomes the strongest barrier. In work life, an employee whose ideas are repeatedly rejected stops speaking in meetings. At school, a student who struggles with math develops the identity of, "I'm not a math person." In relationships, someone who constantly experiences disappointment stops trusting new people. These people do not stop trying because they want to. They stop because they no longer believe trying will work. And most of the time, from the outside, it looks like a personality trait. But in reality, it is a learned behavior. Today, learned helplessness is more invisible, but more widespread. On social media, people give up before trying. I won't succeed anyway. It's too late for me. I'm not that kind of person. These thoughts are not reality, but for the brain, they are real. And behavior is determined not by reality, but by perception. People often quit before they try, because the mind believes it already knows the outcome. Seligman later discovered something else. Some dogs escaped. They had also experienced shocks, but they reacted differently. Why? They did not interpret failure as permanent, so the issue was not the events. It was how they explained the events. In psychology, this is called explanatory style. Learned helplessness works like this. Event to interpretation to belief to behavior without changing the event. Behavior may not change. But if the interpretation changes, behavior can change. The door may be open, but the person may still believe it is closed. This experiment did not show that humans are weak. It showed this. People act not according to reality, but according to expectations. And sometimes the strongest prison is not outside, but inside the mind. Final question. Was the thing you stopped trying in your life truly impossible? Or did you simply believe the door was closed?